number of you. Well, I can show you really quick. Viki is a website. Viki is a video streaming website that specializes in Asian media. So we have Korean dramas, Korean pop music, Taiwanese dramas, Taiwanese music, Indian, British, just international shows in music and movies from all over the world. And we're not only a streaming site, but we're also a subtitling community. So all of the translations and subtitles that you see on the videos on Viki are done by the community. They're done by fans like you. And most of the translators are actually students, which we just found out, which is pretty cool. So students, after they get their homework done, of course, will get online and just translate what little they know of what they hear in the dialogue or the song lyrics. You don't have to be fluent in 2 languages or 3. You could just be learning a language. You could just know a little bit. But the way that the subtitles get done is people fill in all the words they know, and then someone with a more advanced knowledge comes in on top of them and fills in the rest, and then somebody comes in and edits all the spelling and grammar mistakes because you were working too fast. So, and then on top of that, more languages are translated. So every little piece that the translators do, the community does, is just builds a nice foundation for just hundreds of languages. So that's what Viki is. And please feel free to ask me any questions during the presentation, and we'll get going. All right, let's present. Okay. All right, so like I said, I'm from Viki, and today I'm going to be talking about the Korean wave and how it is taking over the world. So how many of you know the song Gangnam Style? Yeah, okay. So Gangnam Style, I feel like, is just the biggest explosion of K-pop power that we've seen in years. And it has just, it's spread around to so many countries that people who don't know anything else about Korea, suddenly they know about this one guy and this one song, and they know how to do all the dance moves and even say some of the words. I just think that's an amazing thing. So I want to basically talk about how the part of K-pop and the Korean wave that most people don't know. So the history of it, how it got started, its trajectory to other countries, and also Korean pop's effects on Asian Americans and people in the United States in general, in terms of cultural identity and what they choose to do, their role models, and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. I hope you find it interesting. Okay, first, a little bit about me. Like I said, my name's Stephanie Parker, and that's the same banner. And I graduated from Stanford in 2011 and got my Media Studies master's degree in 2012. And we have a Korean Students Association here, and I was the cultural director of that club for 3 years. So I was just the director of the annual culture show that we had every year. It was a lot of fun. We would always do parodies of K-dramas, like Boys Over Flowers, Iris. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. How many of you know Soompi.com? Okay, just a few of you. Soompi is basically a K-pop fan site. It is a fan community where people come and share photos and talk about their favorite shows and celebrities. And I was community manager there from 2009 to 2011. And then, a year later to now, I am community manager at Viki.com. So I've been extremely lucky that ever since coming to college, I've been able to follow my interest in K-pop and turn it into research, turn it into a career, basically. So that's the kind of thing that's possible nowadays because of the Korean wave. All right, so back to the map. I'm going to talk about where it all got started in South Korea. And now everyone knows that Gangnam exists. But they didn't just a few months ago. Okay, so to start out, up until the 1990s, if you look at the exchange of entertainment and media between Asian countries, most of them were consuming entertainment from Japan. Japan was the most economically successful, the most industrialized, technologically advanced up until 1990, and so everyone was watching Japanese dramas, listening to Japanese music, and just consuming everything that Japan had to offer. And this was because a lot of the other Asian countries had just fallen behind. What was called the economic crisis of the 1990s, the IMF crisis. But to respond to that, the Korean government had an idea. They watched how American movies, how Hollywood was so incredibly successful, and got the bright idea that, hey, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can export our entertainment and culture around the world and, you know, come to show that we're a country to be reckoned with, to show that we're legitimate and that we deserve a place in the first world. So actually, you know, a lot of people, if you ask, why was K-pop so successful? Where did it come from? They just say, oh, well, it's just better, right? It's just that good. But actually, in the very beginning, the Korean government pumped money into the entertainment industry in order to bring up their economy and follow the example of Hollywood in order to do a good job. Okay? The first and biggest example of this was in 2003, Korean drama called Winter Sonata, starring two of the most famous Korean actors of all time, Baeong-joon, Tae-ju. It was an example of how Korea had made it. Korea is now on the map in 2003, and the Japanese market loved it. They ate it up. This show broadcast in Japan and in Taiwan and in other East Asian countries the full season 3 times. 3 separate occasions they showed this drama, and the ratings just went up and up. More people watched it again and again. And why this was so successful was because of what I hinted at earlier. The producers decided to borrow from Hollywood, so they used really high production techniques. They really concentrated on the script and on the story, and the producers also did market research. They also looked at, okay, how can we get the largest audience possible? And they found out that the audience that was largely untapped was stay-at-home moms, 30 to 50-year-old women who were at home and not working and needed entertainment. They discovered that this group was insanely valuable to the economy and to just the entertainment scene in general. So they started writing with that kind of woman in mind. So the female audience actually got noticed, and they started writing storylines that were all about romance and love instead of violence and war, which is what the dramas were about before. And like I said, the Korean government decided to focus on putting money into IT power, technology power, and soft power, which is basically the dramas and the music, in order to show that Korea is legitimate and that they have arrived. And they did it. The next region to be conquered after Japan and East Asian countries like Taiwan, China, was East and Southeast Asia. Like, you might say, yeah, K-pop, of course they would eat up K-pop. It's just, it's Asian like they are, it's catchy and addictive, the stars are so hot, how can you resist, right? But what I want to argue is that there were other forces at work as well. So East Asian countries in the early 2000s and late 1990s, they did not have a lot of money to spend. They were not, you know, able to buy a lot of the really expensive Japanese and American productions. Those films and TV shows were really expensive for them to show on their broadcasting networks, and it was also really expensive for them to produce their own TV shows. And so what they did was they approached Korean broadcasters and wanted to buy their TV shows for a lower price. And the Korean broadcaster said, please, take it. So between, let me see, up to about 2003, 1998 to 2003, the amount of Korean programming played on TV in Southeast Asian countries reached the highest level of 40%. So if you were in a Southeast Asian country like the Philippines and you turned on the TV, 40% of the TV shows would be from Korea. That's insane. That's crazy. Another reason Southeast Asians really were attracted to Korean dramas and K-pop in general was that it was a trendy and softer alternative to the American and Japanese media that was coming in. These countries were more socially conservative, didn't want to have a lot of violence and sex in their TV programs. And so the Korean ones, which were also very heavily controlled by the government and didn't have any of those things going on, they were very well received. They just fit in naturally to the system that Southeast Asian governments had set up. And then high production quality and the creativity of the storylines, the just over-the-top elements that were being thrown in. You know that when you watch any K-drama, you can expect someone's going to lose their memory. Someone's going to get in a car crash because they were pushing away their loved one, and then the car hits them, right? And then they get cancer, right? And then they find out that the guy they're in love with is their brother. So we hadn't seen this kind of stuff thrown into the dramas before, right? Yeah, so it happens so they were also influenced by Japanese manga and dramas as well. So there were some of those elements in the Japanese media, but the Japanese shows were just too expensive to be bought and shown on the TV here. So the Koreans borrowed from Hollywood, borrowed from Japan a little bit, and bingo. Here we have found the successful formula for the Korean wave, the drama part of it anyway. Now we skip over to where most of the Korean population outside of Korea lives. And these are the people who have the most direct link and direct understanding of Korean pop culture. K-Town, LA. Anyone watch the K-Town reality show? Yeah, it's pretty fun. So it all starts here in the US, in California, in LA and also the Bay Area, but mostly LA because of its really large Korean population. That's where the Korean wave first came over and made a splash, okay? And around 2005 is when we start to see Asian Americans consuming and going after Korean pop culture in a much bigger way. It had been kind of trickling in, but once these sites started to get big, Drama Beans is a K-drama blog. Viki, you know what Viki is. Soupy, a K-pop forum, all K-pop, K-pop news site. So all of these sites had started, around that time or before. So Soupy's been around since 1998, for example, but it was only Korean Americans at the start who were trying to, get in touch with their Korean side and see what's happening back there. Around 2005, I think, is when non-Koreans and even non-Asians started to get interested in K-pop, and their way to get in touch with K-pop was through these websites, through social media. And that's really special. Something that we hadn't really seen before, except maybe for the anime and Japanese pop culture phase. Part of why I think the Korean wave hit the US and was able to spread outside of the Korean American community is that around 2005, these two dramas were released. My name is Kim Sam-soon and My Girl. Anyone watch these? Yeah, okay, these are considered classics. These are considered some of the best Korean dramas ever made. And the way that they're so revolutionary is that the main character is a strong, smart, spunky heroine. She's funny, she knows how to talk her way out of situations, she's strong, she's not the traditional, princess beauty, she has, colorful aspects to her. And she can be many different things throughout the show. And I think that is one element that really appealed to people outside of the Korean American community. It's similar kind of to the Latin American telenovelas, right? Where you have a strong female character, or you're able to identify with that main character because she's geeky and awkward and doesn't always say the right thing, okay? At the same time, we start to see these ladies rise up in the music scene. How many of you know Boa? Exactly, that's what I thought. Boa is, I think, the queen of K-pop. The best example of an Asian world superstar who was able to get her name out there and have a strong image at the same time for a girl. So I really look up to Boa, and K-pop fans thank her for really being the first one to pave the way into non-Asian markets. And how she did that was not on her own. She did it with the help of SM Entertainment, the largest Korean media company, led by Lee Soo-man, who's considered a genius in the industry. And he came up with the formula that culture plus technology equals power. He's the one who came up with the strategy and he planned out even 10 years before how K-pop was going to infiltrate the different markets in the world and how it was going to take over. He has a really savvy business mind. And so he was able to recruit Boa at 9, 10 years old, something like that, and just mold her into the star that would eventually take over. And that's what other Korean entertainment companies, including the drama production, film production, and other music labels, are trying to replicate and trying to do. Lee Hyori as well is another example of a really strong, sexy female in the Korean pop scene that I think Americans really love and identify with. Okay? And so this is how Korean pop, the Korean wave, touched Asian Americans and even non-Asian Americans wherever they were in the US. It was a gradual process. It wasn't just one day it's there, one day it takes over. Like I said, it started over here and then it moves over to where there are other pockets of Asian Americans and mainly Korean Americans. So in New York and Chicago, you see most of the activity. And why I think K-pop has grown to have such a large influence in the Asian American community is that it provides a few things that might have been missing before. It provides a direct link to their Asian heritage, okay? When you log on to a K-pop site and watch dramas or listen to music and you see these people on screen speaking in the language that your parents do, something happens where you feel more Asian. Speaking for myself, but I've done some research on this, and people say that especially Asians who have grown up in an area where not a lot of other Asian people are around, they turn to the internet or they turn to sites where they can access K-pop, almost like it's a drug. Because that's how they learn the language. That's how they find out what's hot and what's going on over in Asia. This land that they didn't really know about before and maybe weren't really interested that much in before has now become something fascinating and something worth visiting or something worth having an interest in. So it's a link to cultural heritage that I think is pretty cool. In that same line, K-pop provides a whole catalog of idols and role models that look like Asians, because they are. And that's important, of course, if you've been in any cultural studies class or racial studies, you know that it's important, especially to children and young people, to have role models that look like them, people who are cool and people who are not just stereotypes in film and TV. If you've gone to any of the other workshops today, you might hear about how Asians are stereotyped pretty badly in American media. Asians are always nerdy, they never get the girl. They do martial arts, and they help you with their math homework. That's about it. And they're really awkward, and no one really wants to be that, right? But K-pop offers this whole other world where so many other possibilities are open. Every single personality type,